What's up guys, Ryan here from Mudgunner. Today I wanted to show you guys how to disassemble the Sig MCX Virtus. This will also work with some of the other MCXs, like I have the Rattler, but these are the only two MCXs that I own, so it's going to mainly be on this, and I'm going to take this one apart for the video, but this should work with some of the other MCXs too. I haven't played with the Spears, which would be the Gen 3. This would be a Gen 2. This I think would still be considered a Gen 1. So there might be slight differences between guns, but overall they're very similar. So let's kind of get into the video and I'll show you how to take it apart. So as far as setup goes, mine is an 11.5-inch Virtus. I got an EOTech, I got a Cloud Defensive Rain, running a Troy vertical grip, and then a Viking Tactics sling. I also have a Radian safety selector, which I think is a must for MCXs, and then Magpul MS Pro sight. So pretty cool setup. I enjoy shooting it. I don't run this one suppressed, but I do have the can that goes on here. It's a Sig SRD 762, but it's kind of a pain to take off of my Rattler. So this one right now is unsuppressed for the most part. As far as initial disassembly, it's very similar to a standard AR. You're gonna pop these two pins right here, just push them and gonna pull them out from this side. They are captured so they don't come all the way out, just like a traditional AR. Gotta use my fingernails to get under there. And then as far as your lower goes, you don't have a buffer tube, so you don't have to take the spring out to clean it at all, but very easy to clean the lower. I'm gonna take my sling off so it's not in the way, but there's your lower. And then as far as the upper goes, your spring is in the upper. So you're gonna pull the charging handle back. Again, I think the Radian charging handle is a very nice upgrade for any of the MCXs. So your bolt carrier group comes out, and then your charging handle comes out. And then as far as your rail, at this point you can take the rail off the gun. If you don't need to, I wouldn't though, because I have felt some MCXs that have very loose tolerance rails, and I think it's probably partly due to people taking them on and off consistently. So mine has like no play in it at all. It's very solid, and I like to keep it that way. So taking the piston apart, you can take it apart out the front. It's not too bad. Let me show you my Rattler real fast because that's slightly different. So my Rattler here, to take the piston off, I have to take the suppressor off, and to take the suppressor off, I have to take the rail off, and to take the rail off, I have to take this light pad off because it is connecting over where the rail and the upper meet. So it's kind of a pain running a setup like this, but this is kind of my LVAW clone, so low visibility assault weapon. So yeah, to take this rail off, I need to take this off because right now it is mounted onto the rail and the upper receiver. And then I need to do that in order to take this piston cup out because my suppressor is in the way of that. So running a setup like this does make it a pain as far as disassembling all that goes. So I haven't been taking the piston rod out of the gun. I've just been cleaning it from the back end. Just something to note if you guys own these. As far as this one is concerned, you can still take the piston rod out. It's just kind of tucked in under here. So you have a little button that you have to press in here. It's kind of tough to get to. I have a little Glock takedown tool right here just to move this, but when you press this you have to move the piston cup and it's going to be a little stiff. So I'm going to show you guys one more time from the front here. So right now it's locked in place. If you used a bullet tip, you can adjust your gas system just like that. That reduces or increases the amount of gas you're getting to the gun, and what's nice with Sig is they have the little arrows here, so less gas, more gas. So with this, I actually am able to run it in the less gas setting with almost all of my 223, 556 with no suppressor on here. And then if you needed more gas, you would just tilt this up, so more gas. But to take this off, again, you have to press this little button right here. And if you have a takedown tool like this, it's actually pretty easy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press this button with my index finger, and I'm gonna just rotate this up and get it past that button. And if your fingers don't fit in these holes right here, you might have to use another pin, or again, you can take the rail off. It's just the more you take the rail off, I think the looser it gets on your upper. So I'm trying to do this without taking my rail off. So just press that pin, use this, and I'm gonna twist it past where my finger is. So now it's just slightly past my finger. And once it's spinning freely, you basically just turn it to the other side. And at that point, now it can come out the front once you just twist it. So once you have that kind of parallel to the barrel, you can pull it out the front, and it's gonna be under some tension. So what I would do is I just put it down, and I'm gonna use my fingers to push straight down on it. but right now it's pretty stiff. I feel it moving forward, but there's a good amount of carbon buildup on it. So now I can just pull it out the front. And there's that, and then your piston rod will just fall out the front. You can give it a light tap. Maybe just slightly more than a light tap, but falls out the front. Mine's pretty dirty. And that's the whole disassembly of the upper minus taking the rail off. But again, when you separate your upper and lower, the only thing that's holding this rail in place is the pin holding that metal piece right there. So that metal tab is attached to this. So that's what's holding your rail to your upper. So once you take the upper and lower part, you can just slide this off. It's got the rail tabs right here. So it's just sliding on those. But I'm just trying to keep mine a very tight fit, so I'm not taking that off. But if you do have troubles getting this out, it might help you to take the rail off. That's basically it for the upper. Now, as far as the bolt carrier group, you can also take the spring off, and I'll show you guys how to take that spring off, but you don't need to take the bolt apart for standard cleaning. So to take your bolt apart, you can use the same pin, push your firing pin, retaining pin right here. Now, on an AR-15, this pops all the way out, but on the MCX, it is captured. So that's captured right there, and then your firing pin will come out the back, but there's this little piece up here that's holding it in place. So if you just apply a little bit of pressure, you can push from the top and it'll come off the firing pin, and then your firing pin comes out the back. It does have a spring on there, so don't lose that spring. And then from here, you can take your cam pin out. So to do that, you just push it back in and then lift this up. So just lift that up, and then you can pull it out right there, and then your bolt comes out the front. So again, you don't need to take this off. I don't normally take this off for cleaning, but in order to take it off, all you got to do is push that pin out. And it's going to take a little bit more time to put it back together, but it's very easy. Just pop this pin out, don't lose it. It's not under that much tension in there. So I'm going to pop that in my hand. So tiny little pin. Putting it on a black mat makes it blend in. But once you have that, this piece comes out right there, and then the spring slides out from your bolt right here. So you can take it apart, but again, I don't think you need to take this apart to clean the bolt. Like, you can get around it. I wipe down all the rods because you can just press and clean the rods and oil them, but you don't need to take this apart any further. And then as far as your bolt goes, I do like taking the extractor off just to clean up under the extractor. You can take the pin out to take your extractor out, so same thing, just use this tool, push it out, and then don't lose it. So that goes right there, and then your extractor comes off, and now you can clean up basically everything. So I'm gonna wipe all these parts down, and then I'll show you putting it back together. All right, guys, I got everything cleaned up pretty quickly, and now I'm gonna put it back together for you. So we're gonna put the spring system back in first so I can show you guys how to put it together without taking this apart. But if you did take this apart, I'll show you how to get it back together right now. You're gonna start by lining this back up in the bolt carrier right here. So we're just gonna slide that in. And once it slides in, it falls into a little spot right there. And then once we have that in, we're gonna take this piece, I don't know what it's called, but basically you just have to line up that hole in there. So right through the middle. So I'm going to start by putting it in from the back here and sticking it right there. Just got to line that hole up right in here. Okay, it's lined up, but I got to go in from this side. There we go. So I'm using my left hand to hold it in place, and I'm going to push this in. There you go, now it's captured. So again, that's something that I don't feel like you necessarily need to take apart to clean every time. I think it's very easy to wipe around the parts just by moving this around. So, but that's just personal preference. And let's get the bolt back together. So we got our bolts, we have our extractor right here. Just line that up. And then we have the retaining pin. This is under a little bit of spring tension as well, so I'm just gonna push down with my thumb and slide this in. So once you get that in, just push it so it's flush. So now your extractor's back in. And then your bolt just goes in here. I'm gonna actually put a little bit of oil on there. It's got Hoppy's number 9 right here. It's a very good oil. Stick that in, spin it around a little bit to get the oil everywhere. And you're basically golden. Make sure your extractor is facing the right side of the gun. You really can't put it in backwards, but take your cam pin here. So you're gonna put it in long ways and then turn it sideways so that your firing pin can go through that hole. I'm trying to line that up and show you guys, but that just falls into place. And once it's in place, you just turn it. And then now we can put our firing pin in there. As far as the firing pin goes, remember we got this little pin right here, which is captured. So just pull that out. You might have to lift that up to pull it out. So that's the one thing, you just lift this up with your index finger as you're pushing the firing pin in, and then you gotta push the spring tension in. So just drop it in from the back, and then you're gonna push it down and push this pin in. Once that pin's in, that's it. So your whole bolt carrier group is back together. And before we put this back in the gun, we'll put the piston rod in the gun. So I wipe these down. Just line your piston rod up through the front, drop it in the hole. Should kind of fall right into place. And then this piece, so basically there's a groove that will lock it into the track. So you're gonna put it in flat like that, and then you're gonna press the detent that's in there, and you're gonna spin this around. So I'll show you guys that. So I'm gonna just drop this in right here. This thing has gas rings on there, so that's one thing to note. You actually have gas rings on the base of this, so it's a little stiff getting back in, but you just kind of force it in there. So once you kind of got it started, I'm just gonna use my finger and I'm gonna wobble it straight down until it falls into place. So right now it's falling into place. I'm just gonna turn this just slightly. So now it's all the way down, and I have to press that little pin and rotate it. Use my finger to push down on that pin, and I'm gonna rotate that. It's kind of hard to show you guys, but I feel it catching on the track. I'm just spinning it around. So now it's captured. So I can move the gas system now, and I keep mine on the lower gas setting. If I wanted to go to the higher gas setting, all I do is move this up, and now it's on the higher gas setting, but I'm gonna keep it on the lower gas setting. So now it's captured, and we'll get the bolt carrier group back in there. Again, I think the Radian charging handle is the best charging handle for this, and MCX charging handles are specific, so you cannot use a standard AR-15 charging handle. I'm just gonna put some oil on this. I do put some oil on the spring here just to keep it running smooth. Just going light oil because I did like a very light cleaning on this gun, so I might wipe it down again at a different point, but just a light coating of oil on there. We're gonna put that in. I'll also put some oil on the charging handle. You can see like where it wears, but this charging handle still looks pretty clean. So light coating of oil. So I'm gonna put the charging handle in first. It's gonna fall into a groove up there, kind of like a traditional AR. And then you just slide this whole unit in. And it'll all snap together. Just push that in. That can fall out the back just slightly, but you can just push it in. And now it's ready to go on your lower. So just like putting any upper on a lower, just make sure your pins are all the way out. Line up the holes. Now I'm gonna do the rear one first because the front's being stiff. So push the rear in, and then we can just give the front pin a little stiff. Light tap. Not really a light tap, but it works. And then now your MCX is back together. Function check it. Safety works. And that is how you take apart and reassemble the Sig MCX. So thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for my next video.